Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Dr. Meghan Waldron. She brings a wealth of experience from K-12 and higher education, offering insights of current educational trends and challenges. We learn from her how we prepare children to think critically and write authentically in a world shaped by AI. We learn about how parents and educators can nurture confident, creative thinkers, and why writing still matters, and how to invest in lifelong learning from an early age. Welcome to the show,
Yeah,
Dr.
thanks for
Meghan.
having me. I'm excited to be here.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Dr. Meghan. And I'm sure
5:30
not just
a.m.
in
here, but
and not just in India, but I'm sure a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about raising critical thinkers in this age of artificial intelligence. We'll talk about all this. But before that, let's talk a bit about your journey,
yeah,
your background, so that people know
sure.
who they are listening to.
Yeah. So I'm a lifelong educator. I started in the classroom in the early 2000s in a district right outside of Washington, D.C. I had 81 languages spoken at the school where I taught and just really developed a love for teaching. I was in the classroom for about 15 years and decided to stay home to raise my three young sons. At the same time, I simultaneously launched a writing company here in Richmond, Virginia. It's called Smart Solutions Tutoring. So for the past 19 years, we've worked with students in grades 3 through 12, really harnessing their excitement about writing and instilling confidence into them as they move on into higher ed or wherever they head after secondary school. I'm really excited now, AJ. I actually work at a major university in Virginia, working with pre-professional health students. So these are students that are moving into pre-med, pre-dentistry, any of the professional health fields. So it's really been awesome to kind of span the whole spectrum of education. I've worked with the youngest, and now I'm getting to work with the students at the university level as well. But across the board, a skill that I'm really passionate about ensuring that all students have is the ability to write and to write well.
Absolutely. So let's understand two things here. One is this: in this age of artificial intelligence, more and
Right.
more, areas AI is getting into our education system, almost everywhere.
Sure.
How do we continue to have a critical mind? And then we'll come to the writing part. What is it that you want to communicate to the audience in a nutshell?
Right. I think there are lots of pros with AI. Don't get me wrong. I think it's an exciting field. I think it was exciting when, it first emerged when I was teaching high school. There was a lot of fear of it. A lot of teachers, it was, hey, we're going back to paper pencil. We're shutting down our Chromebooks. It was interesting then to go to the university level and to see how they were really embracing AI. It's actually a minor at the university where I teach. So I think it depends on which age group of students you're talking about, kind of how AI might be used best. But I think most importantly, with young learners, harnessing critical thinking and having them kind of develop their own thoughts and their own ways to research information is really critical. So yes, while AI is really exciting, I think that it really just depends on which age group we're talking about, how we might kind of work through that.
Absolutely. So let's look at it from a student's point of view. And when
Sure.
you talk of critical thinking, how should we understand critical thinking in today's time? Because earlier on also when calculators came in, other things
Sure.
came in, we thought, it will replace the human part of us. Then
Right.
that carried on. That still, and it has impacted in its own way. Some people will agree, some people will not agree. Earlier we could remember numbers, then the mobile phones forgot, you forgot calculators, your maths, now
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
don't do any maths, you use calculators on the phone, even on calculators. From that aspect, some people will say, because we are evolving,
Right.
and so AI will just, keep all the other things inside it. You need to think much more bigger. How do you want people to understand this whole thing?
Yeah. So I think the critical thinking piece is first. So with critical thinking, I think students need to really get in an area where there's a little bit of frustration. There's a professor at a Duke University that talks about the learning space. So the area between knowing and not knowing is this frustrating kind of valley where students struggle a little bit. And I would argue that's where that critical thinking is taking place. That's where that comprehension, the analysis, the synthesizing of information is happening. So in that learning space, critical thinking is happening. Students are really kind of grappling with the information. So in my summation, my argument of teaching writing for 20 years, critical thinking, writing is critical thinking on paper. So students are kind of toiling through what their argument is. They're determining what their claims are. They're trying to figure out how to substantiate it and back up those arguments. And that can be a frustrating process for a lot of students, especially young writers, as they're trying to figure out what their writing voice is and what that looks like. So that would be the critical thinking part of your question. The calculator piece was my argument at first, AJ. I am not a math person. I'm a writing person, so I'm a big fan of the calculator. But I think AI is a little bit different because AI, in a lot of ways, these large language models are doing a lot of the thinking for students, and they're creating echo chambers for those students. So while that's maybe okay, I guess in some areas in industry where they're using AI to automate different processes, when students are doing research, they're putting the information into the AI, and the AI is telling them what they want to hear. So the way I describe that is if you have a student and they write an essay and they bring it up to you and they say, hey, Dr. Waldron, how does this look? And I say, it looks great. Go to recess. Have a great time. They're going to love that, right? If they come up to me and say, hey, Dr. Waldron, here's my essay, and I start marking it up and ask them to revisit something and ask them to go back and revise, that doesn't go over as well sometimes. AI is that first teacher. AI tells them what they want to hear. And students, they didn't study at MIT, students have trouble delineating and branching off from what the large language models are telling them. So if large language models say, hey, this is the argument, they're going with it. And so that's where that lack of critical thinking is happening.
Absolutely. So, how do you teach kids to learn critical thinking, especially when they have not seen even a bit of a world? Just trying to understand what this whole world is all about. In that aspect, how do you look at? For elder people, they may think we can utilize it for knowledge gap. Sure. That is where the AI can help. But for the kids, how do you want them to understand this part of critical thinking?
Yeah. So with our company, we work with students starting in third grade. And we really found after the pandemic that students really needed to kind of harness those soft skills as well. So we formed something called a small learning community. So we have seasoned teachers, we're all classroom teachers that work with students in small groups. There are 5 kids. And really, AJ, I found one of the best ways to teach writing and to instill that confidence is using mentor tech. So students are still going into material and looking at it and trying to figure out what writing looks like, what good writing looks like, what bad writing might look like. So there's a lot of resources that we use to kind of help foster those skills. The AI piece, I think, again, really important, but I think it's needed once students kind of already have those baseline foundational skills.
Absolutely. So one cannot say that don't use AI. So how do you say use AI in a different way? This AI is for something else, and your thinking is for something else. How do you distinguish between young students who will find it difficult to understand what this person means actually, what to use, when to use, why not to use? How do you say that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I was actually at an AI conference at a university, and a corporation came in, or a nonprofit came in that promotes AI usage and ethical AI usage. And in their mission statement, it said that that people should not be afraid of AI or be skeptical. And I loved being in this conference because it was all these professors, and they were like, no, we should be skeptical. Skepticism is good. Skepticism causes you to question. It causes you to critically think. So I think with anything, as these new technologies are emerging, it's great to see how they might, streamline how people are working, and they might free up more time. But I think it's always good to be skeptical and to question and to kind of see where those flaws are. And that's the difference, I would argue, between a professional using AI and a young learner using AI. They just don't have that skill set yet to necessarily identify those gaps, where somebody that's been in an industry for a long time might say, oh, that's a hallucination. That's not a real thing that's coming through on AI. Or that's probably not a real accurate word choice. That's not really how a human would talk, right? But kids don't have those skill sets yet. So I think that's the differentiation in my mind.
Right, Dr. Meghan. So you talk in terms of, finding, for kids, especially kids, finding their own voice as writers in this wake of AI. what is this own voice? How do you tell them about finding your own voice? And what is this own voice about? How do you protect it? First, you develop it, and then you protect it as you go along.
Yeah, so I love helping students find their voice with writing. And the way I describe that, Dr. AJ, when I taught in the classroom, at the beginning of the year, I don't know my students. But by the end of the semester, this is before they had Chromebooks, I could lay out their papers if they wrote an essay, and I could say, this is John's, this is Priya's, this is Eric's, because their personality, their characteristics, if they're funny, those types of things are coming through in their writing. AI takes that human voice out of writing, that emotive language. So in helping students kind of harness that voice, like I said, sometimes we use mentor text. So they look at moves that writers are making to kind of see, oh, I see how they, created, a funny, I don't know, dichotomy, or how they use similes or metaphors or figurative language. I could do that. So we really help kids experiment with what that looks like. In addition to teaching academic writing, we teach a lot of creative writing. And I don't know that it's something that we are doing specifically that creates voice, but I think the more students write, the more they share their writing out loud, and the more they're in community where other writers are giving them feedback, that voice kind of naturally emerges, and that voice sounds like confidence. So I think that is where we really kind of see the magic happen, when they're excited to read their writing back out, because that's not always the case when they first start out.
Absolutely. So how do you implement it on the ground? Means students will say, yes, we understand whatever little they can understand. They will say yes. But then where is this environment? Is it only in the classroom? How do you extend it beyond the classroom? Because
Right.
all these AI tools everywhere, it's also on your mobile
Sure.
phone. Or
Yeah.
even if you are not using mobile phone directly for that, it's also woven nowadays into social media. And that's the way they want it. Help us
And our
understand
email.
from that point.
Yeah.
So how do you
Yeah.
increase that whole environment for them
Right.
to keep on using their own voice?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's up to families what works for them. I have 5 sons, and I think my oldest son is 16. I'm sorry, my youngest son is 16. The oldest is 22. So I think if I were to do it all over again, my husband's a teacher as well, I probably would not have given them a device until at least 8th grade. I think there was such an excitement over the iPhone, and we, students started getting those here in late elementary school. That's pretty common. They have them in about 5th grade, 6th grade. There's a huge drop off, I noticed, in engagement as soon as students get that phone in their hands. So I think you're seeing a lot of people, even in the tech industry, they're pulling back and waiting sometimes until high school for students to have those devices. I also encourage students to write outside of the academic world. Writing is a huge release for anxiety for students. We just have seen a lot of that, as I would argue, a mental health crisis here in the US post-pandemic. So students who learn how to journal, they learn how to articulate their thoughts. I have encouraged students, if they were upset with a friend, to write a letter and then tear it up and throw it in the trash can. Sometimes writing can just serve as that release of emotions for students. So yes, AI is everywhere, but writing is an age-old tradition. The New York Times posted an article 3 days ago how they are seeking storytellers for branding. And I had my students on Tuesday, my older students in 10th grade, they actually practice writing AI posts. I'm sorry, not AI posts. They actually practice writing posts for LinkedIn using a template that is supposed to really create that human connection. Because I want to show them that having those skills is going to be really marketable and really helpful once they, are in the professional world. AI cannot do everything. And I think we're starting to even see those cracks early on.
Absolutely. So in a real world scenario, how do you tell students, they themselves are in that emotional stage, that
Sure.
age of emotions. They will think much more emotionally. So how do you tell them to be more human vis-a-vis AI? They have seen it, but I don't know how much they grasp it. How do you tell them? Is it you telling them that, okay, you are being human, so you be like this, but AI is almost like non-human. How do you
Right.
differentiate it when you explain it to them when they haven't used AI much?
Yeah. So sometimes in the past, what I've done is, I know in our university class there, we are helping students prepare the class I had last year for nursing school. And so students are writing a personal statement. So what I did sometimes, AJ, is I would show them an AI written essay, right? 30 seconds flat, same prompt. Let's look at this one. And then let's look at this essay where a student talked about resuscitating a patient on the pool deck when she was 16 years old and bringing that woman back to life. And I get chills even thinking about it, because that second essay is what resonates. And when those admissions committees are reading thousands of these essays, they're going to pick out that AI one in a heartbeat, compared to the one that might have a couple of grammatical errors, but it's real. So I think modeling that for students and really having them listen to it and hear the cadence of language, hear the emotion that comes out through language, that's just not something, maybe in the future, but that's not something right now that these large language models are able to replicate.
Absolutely. So what is your advice to parents who can extend this particular thing, make your job a bit easy, so that what is it that they can learn from you and follow at home?
Yeah, I mean, AI is not going anywhere. So I think we need to learn how to navigate it responsibly and to help teach our kids how to navigate it responsibly. I think for our youngest learners, it's really important, those basics, reading to your kids, having them hear language, having them practice with language, having them experiment with it. One of the hardest things for me is when a parent follows behind a kid's essay with a pen on their first try and points out all their errors, because they're really trying to figure out how to use language in the beginning. We still work with students through those 5 stages of writing. So brainstorming, drafting, editing, revising, publication. So the more parents can encourage their kids to kind of build that writing and reading habit foundationally, I think is really important. And then as they move into those older grades, I think it's important for them to figure out how to use AI responsibly and how to ensure that what they're writing is really still their writing, and to be able to differentiate when they're seeing maybe other uses of AI that they're able to discern, like, oh, I don't really think this person wrote this, right? So they're able to kind of have that healthy skepticism, as well as consumers or, wherever they are in the workplace.
Right. What are the challenges that you face in doing this?
Yeah, I think it's the technology, AJ, is coming at us so fast, and there's a lack of policy. So whether you're in a K-12 setting, a university setting, a work setting, there's a lot of mixed signaling. So I think that is a major challenge. Kids are not supposed to use AI in school. It's considered a form of cheating. However, teachers are going to professional development to learn how to use AI to write lesson plans. So I think the ethics around AI, the policy around AI is really tricky. There are no, at least in the US, there are no parameters on who can use ChatGPT. So students are using that for like counseling and things like that. So I think that having those policies and those kind of breaks in place for our younger learners is going to be really essential in the coming years.
Right, Dr. Meghan. Do you think the world will get divided into, like they used to be, in economic terms, communist and socialist, and and the open market, and in the same way, haves and have-nots? Do you think again it will be, in writing terms, people will have this segregation of written by AI, written by human, and then let people decide which they want to read or go with? How does this future look like to you? Do you think this is a new open economy opening up altogether?
That's really interesting. Yeah. So the conference I went to, they shared, these AI experts, that AI will become a utility. So just like we have power and we have water, right now it's open source. Basically AI has read the entire Library of Congress in the US, right? So it's just consuming information at such an exponential rate, but that won't always be the case, that, you'll have free open access to it. So that was a really interesting idea to me, because that was just, obviously such a foreign concept. My husband and I are both writers. We're actually writing a YA book right now about a future world, much like you described, where people who can write are in the upper kind of echelon, and those who just consume are in the lower. So I love that you brought that up, because these are things that we talk about, like, what is this going to look like in the future? I think that's very dystopian. I have no idea if that's how it will be. But I think we're really going to, be in this kind of brave new world as we find out what's going to be automated, and then will thinking and critically thinking and being able to read and write well and on your own be a unique skill that doesn't exist. We'll soon find out.
Yeah, absolutely. See, the world is moving towards lab meat, original meat, and so many other things,
Right.
GMO products, organic products, everywhere it's this whole divide seems to be coming up, and more choices in terms of earlier, which was not a dilemma. Be that as it may, there is so much to learn from you about all this, Dr. Meghan.
I don't know,
and I'm sure. And I'm sure a lot of people would want to connect with you, learn more from you, about you, want to, learn about all this and perhaps take your help also for that. What's
Sure.
the best way for them to do so?
Yeah. Our website is smartsolutionsva, like Virginia.com. And then I'm on LinkedIn, Meghan Waldron, EDD. So we'd love to connect with parents and provide ideas, or to connect with students who are looking to enhance their writing, get ready for college, all that good stuff.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you.
for
Thanks for
joining
having
us.
me.